Paul and James here from the New Sweet Science.
Paul, do you mind if I hijack the show right now?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you. If you said yes, I'd be like really confused. Like, what do I do now? Do I just sit here in silence? Do I go get a drink? Do I get some caffeine? Do I go to the bathroom? Do I masturbate? I don't know. It's like, what would be my new avenue? So I am really torn on who to give my sweet technique to on today's show.
Okay.
So I want to see if you can help talk me through it, and then I can identify the most deserving person.
Okay.
Okay. So option one, we have Michael Chandler. And let me go into more detail. Obviously, he won the fight in the first round, yada, yada, yada. But I rewatched the fight, and Michael Chandler set up Hooker for that left hand from the moment the fight began, the moment he threw his first punch until he landed that devastating left hand. And I actually documented every meaningful punch he threw up until the finish. Do you want to hear this?
Okay.
Low right hand. Low right hand. Then he goes low high with the right hand. Okay, same side. Then he goes low right hand again. Then he throws a high right. Then he throws a 1-2. And then he goes low right overhand left. He's going low and changing levels, bringing Hooker down a little bit, but I keep on throwing that right body shot. He hasn't thrown the single overhand left one time until he lands the devastating finish. And I have not watched Chandler fight in a long time. So we talked about how he has big overhand punches, but I just thought that was a beautiful display of showing somebody something for the entire fight and then taking them out with the shot you want to land from the beginning. Okay. That's option one. Option two, everyone's probably going to gravitate toward the calf kicks. And I'm going to actually start before that for Poirier as my potential sweet technique winner. Okay. Around 4:30 in round one, he takes Conor down. Okay. Conor gets up pretty quickly, 30, 40 seconds in. But then from around 3:50 until 1:40, he I don't want to say trick, but he gets Conor into this fight up against the cage and clinching. Now, if you've never been in a clinch fight or in a grappling fight, 3 minutes of those two things combined is fucking exhausting. It is so tiring. And then as soon as it ended, Conor came out guns a-blazing again. And I think that contributed to him getting finished in round two. So those are your two options. Chandler setting up the overhand left, or Poirier using grappling / clinch to wear down a guy who, wait for it, notoriously gets tired pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, those were my exact two options for sweet technique. And that's my UFC 257 sweet technique. It wasn't the calf kick. It was the takedown.
We're on the same page here, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, because it was, and the other choice was the Chandler shot. It's just the fact that I think that was the only way that Dustin could win, by not exchanging early, but Chandler could have still won in other ways. So Conor's that dragster. He's, the longer the fight, the lower the probability he has of winning. He's not an accumulation striker. He's a, put your lights out guy. And the trick is to lengthen the fight against him. So yeah. I'm always been convinced no matter what he does, I don't care if he's standing there pouring milk in a glass, round two, halfway in, he's going to get tired. And all of that grappling, everything like that, filled up those muscles with blood. It doesn't make them as loose. And it just takes enough percentage off of the shots where Poirier's chin is good enough to hold up against.
So great segue, because I think Conor underestimated Poirier's chin. And I wonder, even his coach said, it's going to look like Alvarez. Conor knocked down Eddie like 2 times in that first round, finished him. I believe it was the second round. And if you go into a fight thinking you're going to take somebody out in 8 or 9 minutes or 7 minutes, you have no reason to pace yourself for later rounds. You've already convinced yourself this is an under 2-round fight, which it was. And, after the grappling, I was like, whoa, Poirier is more tired than Conor here. And someone said it on the broadcast too. And Conor came out. I don't want to say Conor lit him up in the first round, but he won that round. I thought convincingly. He landed some pretty big shots. Poirier got 1 calf kick and 1 check right hook. That's pretty much all he did the entire fight, or the entire first round. And Conor looked good in round 2. My first emotional thought when the fight ended is Conor is Rumble, and Rumble is Conor.
Yes.
And these are not shots at these two guys, because they're both highly talented. They've performed great. They've reached high levels in the sport. But when the going gets tough, they don't get going. They tap out. And the fight comes to a pretty quick conclusion thereafter. And I thought about this today. I'm like, okay, so let me think back. Conor's most recent losses. Nate Diaz. He got caught. He rolled to his stomach. He got submitted. Khabib. It's round, 4? He's wearing down. Gets to his back. Submitted. This one here. He gets hit with the first real shot that Dustin landed. And those hands, they just drooped to the side. And he just sat there like a human punching bag until the fight ended. And I think there's a little bit of front runner in both those guys. And I think that this occurs in other sports too. Like Aaron Rodgers is a notorious front runner. And when you have a natural gift, or maybe things come a little bit easier to you, and then things get harder, it's like, fuck, man, why would I try hard? Why not do what comes easy to me? I'll just give up here and go do something else. So I think there's a tendency when things get challenging, if you're more gifted naturally, to just say, fuck it, I'm done, than to go through the fire. And Poirier is a guy who I believe he'll go through the fire, man. He just, I was like, you know what? He's tougher than Conor. Conor estimated his chin, and Poirier, used the smart game plan to take him out in round 2. And I think Poirier deserves a lot of credit for the game plan and his toughness he showed in that fight.
He stuck to his game plan, because if he wouldn't have had those 2 other things other than exchange. Damn, what are you on today? Is that a coffee or what?
That's hot chocolate.
Oh,
here's my caffeine drink coming up next.
I think if he would have just exchanged, it would have been game over. That takedown was it was good. I didn't think he would really mix it up that much, but he talked about it in the post fight. But the not so sweet technique for UFC 257.
Can I guess it?
What?
Because here's what I wrote down. I have my own I wrote down not the sweet technique. That's a shittier version of your version of the not technique. What's yours called again?
Not so sweet technique.
Okay, mine's not the sweet. So a little different. Mine is Conor not sitting down between rounds.
I mean, you know how I feel about that.
Dude, I called it out. I'm like, what is he doing? What are you showing off? You're not tired? Like, why wouldn't you sit down? You exert more energy standing than sitting. It's like a proven physiological fact. There is no reason to stand up between rounds for a minute. Then he's hanging off the gate. Why? Because he's tired. Just admit it, man. Sit the fuck down.
Yeah, I almost feel like he was trying to lengthen the fight a little bit to show that he had the stamina and everything. Uh, Mine is not that. Even though I'm convinced Conor got more tired because he came out first and he stood up between rounds. But
because when he comes out first, the fight begins. He's already in round 2.
exactly. So I'm just like, this is not good. The not so sweet technique is Conor continuing to engage in the clinch. He gets up and turns Poirier into the fence 40 seconds after that takedown by Poirier. And then 2 different times in the clinch, Conor had Poirier against the fence and he could have disengaged. I'm pretty sure eventually I was just like, why is Kavanaugh not telling him to disengage? But I can't, you can't hear everything. Eventually I do hear him say it, but I think he should have done it earlier.
Yeah, 100%, man. I wrote that down. 2 minutes and 10 seconds. They were clinching. Dude, that's exhausting, man. When you and I would just go at 20%, and we're not the same level of athlete as these guys, I'd be exhausted 40 seconds in. Like, your shoulders get so tired when you're hand fighting and underhooking and overhooking and, grabbing, using the plum behind the head. Like, that is an exhausting fucking activity. You throw in adrenaline and it's 2 guys in a fight, like a huge main event. Man, like, that's why Poirier was so tired as well. I thought he might have like a Gaethje-like adrenaline dump that Gaethje had versus Khabib, but Poirier, his resolve, man, is fucking next.
That was something I could see that. But last episode, I said, when I knew the fight was over for Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar was when Kattar hit him with that unbelievably perfectly timed planted right hand right on Max's chin early, and he couldn't put him away. Well, this fight, when I knew the fight was over, was 145 left in round 1. And that was when Poirier was taking those big, deep breaths, because I knew if he was working hard, Conor was working hard. And Conor is one of those guys. He's so deceptive. He's looks completely fresh, and then he is utterly exhausted.
Right.
Now,
so to your point there is, when I watched the fight the first time, instinctively, man, I'm like, man, Conor just looks old. Like, and I had this whole thing planned that I was going to come in here and say, maybe I still will. But then when I watched it again, he didn't look old until the fight progressed to the point where his energy bar had dipped down below 20%.
Here's why he partially looked old, because he shaved his head, and then he was like more, had that low energy throughout the press conferences. So you're just like, that's a guy who needs a nap. So I think that starts influencing you to think that he looks old, because that's what happened to me. And the fight is weird because you want to look for all these answers, kind of like, oh, is it this? Is it that? Was it the kick? Oh, he doesn't know how to defend against a left-hander. Okay. Like, the guy doesn't know how to, I mean, what are these, the dumbest coaches ever? Like, oh yeah, if you stand on the same side, you can get that calf kick easier. Yeah, no shit. And I believe there is something with training and shin pads, because they're highly protected. And so you can't get that same kind of impact and feeling. But there's so many things of what didn't Conor do, what Poirier did. Does Conor didn't have that killer instinct? Did this person not have that? And it's just like, whatever you want, then you can say is the answer. But I just have this hard time. I still want to give Poirier a ton of credit, because I feel like Conor just took that edge off of Conor 10, 20%. I'm not saying he out exhausted Conor or Conor got too exhausted. I'm saying Poirier brought his power down to say, hey, now we can exchange where you're going to have to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And not just throw that left hand and that little upper screw jab or whatever. And Poirier's technique was on point. That plus 5,000, Poirier's right hook the broadcast was obsessed with the calf kick, and they went crazy over a Poirier big left hand. But the shot that began the downfall was before that, and it was he kind of pulled, he kicked, he left his hip, and then he came back with a right hook, and you can tell he gets really engaged after that. Sometimes you just need to look at the body language of the other guy. And
let me circle back here to the clinch thing, because we have evidence of Conor getting sucked into something he shouldn't be doing. And let me reference my favorite thing in the history of the show, and that's when Forrest Griffin is walking with Dan Hardy, and up on the screen, Forrest, it's when Khabib gets Conor down, and he goes through all the sequences. He's like, Conor could have gotten up there, but he got sucked into grappling, and he continued to grapple until Khabib got a dominant position, and then eventually won the fight. Right? Same thing occurs here in the clinch. Conor could have broke on out of that clinch and created space at least 2 times. I didn't write them down because I just watched the time, but it was at least 2 times he had Poirier up against the cage, and he could have created space and got back into a standing exchange. So I think this occurs a lot of times throughout fighting, where guys or girls get sucked in to doing something where they really shouldn't be. Like, just create space and go back to your specialty. And if he puts you there again, then deal with it. But get back to where you're special. Like you mentioned, Conor was special pre-fight, and he landed a lot of clean shots in that first round, even in the first part of round 2 as well. And I'll give Conor credit, because he was taking those calf kicks and literally doing nothing to defend them. And I think Poirier said this. He was like, "Yeah, he's catching it, but it's already landed. Like the damage is done." But Conor kept on marching forward through calf kick after calf kick, and he thought he was going to finish Poirier in spite of the calf kick damage. So I'll give him credit for that. And then once Poirier landed the shot, it was the end. But so there's get back to what makes you special, and not get sucked into what the other guy's trying to get you to do.
I also thought about, how about switching stances? I think I saw Kavanaugh saying, "Oh, then that guy's hurt, then you run after that leg." Whatever. You can even step back and then step into your stance, like a shift or a big advance. So you're out of, he fights right-handed, and then he steps into the left-handed stance and kind of mixes with things. I almost feel like Poirier did that versus Jim Miller. I'd have to rewatch it, but you should be able to make those adjustments. And he couldn't make them. Now the lead up, like I say, I don't want to take away from anything from Poirier. Poirier, what he did in his technical thing, it was great. He really rolling well, knowing kind of what Conor's going to do, really focusing on that right hook. He got him with it quite a few times, but the lead up was weird. He's bald. He's a humanitarian. He has a little barter where you exchange the hot sauce for the proper 12, and Dee is pregnant again. I didn't even realize she was pregnant again. And then when right before the fight was starting, what really threw me off is when Conor was dancing to Poirier's music. And me, I don't like drawing too much away from the early stuff, especially like the weigh-in, how Al Iaquinta's like, "Oh, he's always following Conor. So when Conor stands up, he stands up. When Conor goes down, he goes down. So he follows Conor. Well, maybe he's a counter puncher. So that'd be perfect. If you liked countering, then that'd be perfect for you, right?" Like, you can't draw too much into it. You got to be careful. But man, him like dancing, it was like this culmination of kind of where his head was at. And I was wondering if he was trying to like bait him in, kind of like Cerrone. Cerrone was really nice, but I feel like he was even more subdued here. I almost feel like he was trying to bait him in and then come in and just blast him and surprise him. It was just kind of, I don't know what to make of it all. I know everybody is drawing all their conclusions of it. I'm still like, I don't know what's going on.
Well, let me draw some conclusions of it because I'm happy to do that and extrapolate stuff from very small evidence. So I will definitely take the mantle on this idea. Let me compare this to one of our all-time favorite characters on the show too, and that's Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods during strippers, infidelity, drugs, partying was the most dominant golfer ever. And then as soon as he goes through rehab, he sucks. And he's had a few good years and some mini runs here and there, but he never came close to the guy he was while he was out there running through strippers at an alarming rate. And I said this on Sunday during the card, and I'm like, I wonder now, again, like, this is taking nothing away at Poirier, anything. Like, Poirier, I thought, was the most complete fighter on the night, and he deserves to win. But like the pre-fight stuff, right? It was very subdued. It's like Conor got so dark during the Khabib fight. That was kind of like that was him, and that was Tiger Woods crashing the SUV drunk or whatever he was.
Yeah.
It was like that was like his rock bottom. And up to the Cerrone fight, that was different. During the last year has been completely different, except for he did hit an old man. But anyway, like, he made us be a guy who needs to live on the edge to be at his best.
And that is true. Guys need to live like that, because then when you start, whatever, you have this edge, maybe you start bringing questions about it yourself. Maybe that's blocking. Maybe that's just, you do well in that situation. There's so many possible reasons. I almost feel like Manny Pacquiao sort of had that too before he, once he got caught cheating. I mean, went to be a Christian. And then Kobe, I wonder what his numbers were after the anal incident, allegedly.
He had to change his number to like to be reborn.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure he was number 8. And then once that occurred, he went to number 24, or it's vice versa. He had to literally go through a rebirth.
And then have a press conference, and then, man, buy a big old fat rock for his wife. Plus, it's hard to say is when do you eventually just change or get older or decline? There's something, this is kind of off the topic, but do you remember Big Paul? Do you remember what he said after the Adesanya Costa fight?
Did you tell me on the show?
Yeah.
Then no, I don't remember.
I
black out every time we record.
He said he's not sure if he likes where MMA is headed, because it's coming down to a game of who can land that calf kick.
Oh, so thank you. This is a great, because here's now let's get negative. Okay. Now let's get negative. How long?
Let's get dark.
Until it's two guys standing on an invisible line and trading calf kicks till the first person falls down.
So have you ever seen the videos where the guys hold their hands and they do the slapping contest?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, there's like a few things that are kind of like that. Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
So they're gonna baby powder their calves up, and they're just gonna take turns calf kicking. And whoever has the most hardened perineal nerve is the winner, basically.
Not to be confused with perineum.
Yes, they feel slightly different, but I do like both of mine kicked. To each their own.
Oh, and like, so here I was thinking about this. Like, when Poirier won, I was like, cool, man, that's awesome. Happy for him. Like, he's guaranteed to fight more frequently. Like, he kind of is a better ambassador of the sport, even though Conor's the bigger name. So I was like, either way, it was a positive for me. But
Conor is definitely not an ambassador.
No. But there is something that's leaves a little sour taste in your mouth when you get really excited for a huge card, and then it's kind of like an injury almost dampens the performance, even though I know like he should defend it, learn to defend it. He should counter, make adjustments and all these things. But I started deep diving calf kicks and thinking about it. Like there's been a lot of fights where literally one calf kick or one move is the difference. And maybe I just have to kind of shift my mindset, but like a great submission. Okay. Like, yeah, that should end the fight. A great knockout shot. Yeah. End of fight. A calf kick. I'm like, it doesn't get me as amped up as the other two types of things that can lead to a finish. But maybe that's a me problem.
It's definitely not as sexy. I do think there is an evolution to it. I thought Conor defended it a little better than you did, but to each their own. I thought it was maybe overblown a little bit. Not that it wasn't an effective move, but this fight was completely like the calf kick or bust. Conor wasn't falling on the ground like Poirier and Jim Miller.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But yes, this was an important part of it, but they just couldn't. They got two calf kicks in their mouth on the broadcast, and they're like just going to town on that thing.
There was only one moment where I thought I could see a visible change in Conor's movement, and actually Felder called it out like, oh, that one, the dead leg or whatever he said. And for a brief moment there, Conor looked a little stiff. But like I said earlier in the pod, like Conor kept marching forward. Like it didn't really affect what he was doing.
And he did somewhat okay with getting out of the way. He was starting to reach more and more. And then sometimes that is indicative of it. I'm surprised Poirier didn't come up with a head kick. Yeah. Conor was really reaching down.
What a finish that would have been, huh?
It was a matter of time before it was coming. But at least Conor was trying to get in there and close the distance. He was mixing in between when you're out of range and when you're in range. You can sit back karate style when you're out of range like that. But when you get in, you got to have your head down. I think it wasn't like this. He was fighting completely different. I think there's aspects in each fight where you can see kind of an evolution of him going a little more boxing style. And I don't know. Plus 2,500 God for trying to give me a sign about what was going to occur in the fight. So I was very unhappy about the main card. And I was like, I'm not watching these two fights, or I don't care what's going to happen. So me and my girlfriend proceeded to have sex after the Amanda Hebus fight, even though it was a sad fight.
So there's a thin line between, sadness and ecstasy, right? So you were sad, but it can, like it's almost like makeup sex.
Crying and rock go hand in hand. So as I was finishing, I got a calf cramp and had to buckle down and eject. Oh. I had to bail, get out of there, stop, drop, and roll, get this sucker straight. And, I know how to get rid of that calf cramp, but it came and I should have saw the sign that God was giving down to me.
Dude, I completely forgot about this, but I have a couple, 2-3 times in the past few weeks, I've woken up and had a cramp in one of my calves.
Why do you have a credit card in your hand?
It was sitting here and I'm amped up right now. So I grabbed it.
Are you breaking up lines with that thing?
Just started flying around. I'd be doing lines of melatonin though now. I'm more of that kind of
Is Tito running for governor or something? We need to donate to his campaign.
That reminds me about my special customizable section today.
Ooh. All right. And I don't know what it is, but yeah. Plus a pat on the back, me. Because I haven't been betting lately and I would have lost on that fight. So props to Poirier. Even though I think I would have softened the blow a little bit I would have went for under 2.5 rounds, which that's halfway into round 3. But I started getting away from betting because it was affecting how I viewed the events, how it took, instead of just enjoying the purity of the sport. I love this sport. So I got away from that. So pat me on the back. And I even looked at my girlfriend. I was like, oh, see, we would have lost money tonight. And we wouldn't have had, well, we would have still had sex, but then it would have ended.
Yeah, in retrospect, Poirier McGregor inside the distance seems like a lock. I don't know what the line was before. I don't know if we discussed it, but like
it was like just over 400, I think.
Yeah, +4. Okay, yeah, so -400.
All right, so what's next? Let's hear what you
Paul, I have the indisputable ultimate fight for Conor. And I think the timing is perfect.
So the fight, not boxing.
No, not boxing. We don't want to watch that again.
Okay.
Max Blessed Holloway.
I was going to guess Justin Gaethje.
He's coming off his national network TV debut, put on one of the all-time fights. Okay. Conor off a loss or a win doesn't matter. That doesn't apply to him because we have one guy coming off a win, one guy coming off a Conor. It doesn't fucking matter if he lost or won his most recent fight. His rematch versus Diaz did huge numbers. So Max, now if Ortega beats Volkanovski, which I'm not going to make that pick, then Ortega versus Max makes sense. But I'm under the premise that Volkanovski beats Ortega. Max isn't going to get that title shot. He's already lost to Volkanovski twice. I don't want to say there's no one out there for him, but there are other contenders who should try to. You don't want contenders fighting Max on their way to Volkanovski because there's a good chance they're going to kill him off. So Conor, if you look at the lightweight division, Oliveira's not going to fight him. Maybe Gaethje would, but it sounds like Gaethje might fight Oliveira. Tony Ferguson's out there, but so, two guys a little older past their prime isn't a terrible idea. So that's my number 2. But my number 1, Max Holloway, Conor McGregor. Sign me up for that fight. Can Conor get the finish on that amazing chin before Max makes Conor fall off in the later rounds? That's my number 1, man.
Conor on his next fight is going to bring the heat in terms of buildup. He's going to have to, coming off a loss like this, and he's going to come out hot. He'll definitely won't come out subdued or whatever he was, tranquilized. I don't know.
What is a tranquilizer that's prescribed to people
ketamine?
Like living? What is it?
Ketamine? I don't know. That's for animals.
I feel like I've heard of moms who are high stress.
Xanax,
tranquilizers.
Xanax, Valium. Don't know.
Yep, Valium. Nailed it, dude. Look at you, man. Nickname Mother's Little Helper.
Yeah. Remember I was telling you about Mother's Little Helper?
Yeah. Rolling Stones song. That's right. You taught me this.
So what about who's next for Dustin?
I actually love the idea of giving Dustin the belt. He has a win over Gaethje, win over Conor. Who else? He's beaten a lot of guys, obviously. He beat Max. I like the idea of Charles fighting Chandler for the right to fight Dustin. Thing is, Gaethje off of a loss, for him, it does matter. So that kind of throws me into a loop or, kind of just, I'm not sure what to do with him. So, you got Gaethje, Oliveira, and Poirier. Am I missing anybody? Chandler. So, yeah, those 4 guys should fight somehow. This in some way, those 4 guys should fight.
Charles Oliveira probably deserves a title fight, in my opinion. I understand Chandler coming onto the scene, but my personal preference would be Oliveira, and I guess
I think I know the answer. But how did you
Chandler versus Gaethje?
how did you quote unquote enjoy Chandler's WWE post fight in the ring performance?
You know me. I need a little bit more. It was cute.
Because, like, it was identical to, and I haven't watched WWF or E since it was WWF many years ago, but like Mean Gene Okerlund holding the mic and Razor Ramon, spouting off with like this amplified tone and voice. And this was like legit the exact same thing to me, but I didn't mind it. Like, it was like, it is what it is, man. It's kind of entertaining. It is what it is.
I'm okay. I don't want it too much because I feel like Poirier kind of pushes that, or not Poirier, Cormier pushes that a little bit more on people, and you got to call your shot and have fun. And I'm okay with having fun once in a while, and it's all right. Just don't turn it too much into that sport, or boxing. You'll regret it. We get guys like Colby Covington. I mean, Jesus Christ. The Chandler fight, that would have been my sweet technique, that finishing left hand. That guy, it was great. He slightly slipped inside of his jab. He varied his closing speed, and then he had that big advance, that kind of shift where he cut off the angle with that left hand. He looked so fast. Man, he looks so fast. And he started touching him to the body. I think you not only score, get the guy's hand down, whatever, but you do get a sense of distance. And reaching down to that body, I mentioned in the last episode that Hooker's that difference might be that knee up the middle. But he was moving so fast and so far laterally. Like, it was like they were just going around like 18 times. Mm-hmm. He was moving so much with that jab. I think he was trying to kind of just read Chandler and everything. And my girlfriend, it's funny, she mentioned, how come Chandler isn't, or how come Conor got hit with those calf kicks and Chandler didn't? And I just said, you got to kind of be all the way in or all the way out. And it's that covering with that foot speed. It reminds me when you called him Chad Mendez.
Yeah.
And it's like Khabib's fast feet. Johnny Hendricks for like 2 fights had this unbelievable foot speed that I think messed with guys. But the Chandler, I wish Khabib was still around, because we talked about it before. How is Khabib going to start doing versus wrestlers? Gaethje, I thought he would pose more issues against Khabib, but he never really wrestled in MMA. You spotted Gaethje's weakness in the embedded, where that guy held him down. But I remember our listener, John, from in the past, he talked about, somebody like Gregor Gillespie, someone with some wrestling accolades, like really serious level. But I guess we won't get to see that because you're the greatest ever and you just retire after.
One thing too is Chandler's been in close to 10 title fights in Bellator. So Gaethje had what I perceive as an adrenaline dump. He came in amped up and just kind of disappeared.
Some kind of dump. Maybe he had to take a dump. I don't know.
You know what? If I don't take a dump, like if I eat a lot of cheese the day before, we've been doing more cheese boards around here. And if I do a little too much cheese, I regret that the next day because my entire day is ruined.
You know what I just learned last year? That the cheese and meat board is called a charcuterie board.
Yes.
I just learned that last year. I didn't know that term existed, and people around me were blown away.
I'm probably in the last couple of years at most. We ended up, how we discovered what it was? We were at a restaurant at the bar, and I'm like, we're talking. We're like, yeah, how do you say it? Like shark. We thought it was a charcuterie, and we're like, it looks interesting. And the bartender must have been like 20 feet away, and he said, charcuterie board? Yeah, coming right up. And we're like, whoa. And we took it. We didn't even want it. We were discussing it privately. and he brought it out and we enjoyed it. And now, I mean, now I don't want to say it's a staple, but we had it more than one time. But that bartenders, like you have like parent ears, you can hear anything your kids are doing when they're getting in trouble and shit. There's bartender ears as well.
Okay.
And I would imagine a bartender who's also a parent has the best ears, and they can hear orders and whispering from 40 feet away. That's just my belief. I have not proven this concept yet, but that's my belief. Circling back to Chandler, I forgot to write this down, but I had the exact same thought as you. And I just was like, he's getting, I didn't think distance. I decided he's getting Hooker's timing down to know where he is so he can land the shot he's trying to land. But I think distance is a better way to look at it. Like just understanding where he's going to be when he throws that, and he advances, throws that big punch.
And he's just that athlete. Just when I almost texted this to the group, but then I felt stupid. I was going to say I'm stupid though, but that Chandler looks tough to me is making me want to change my pick to him. Just the way he looked like, and I love his demeanor. I liked how Hooker was. I enjoyed those two. Both go out higher than when they came in for me.
Disagreeing with you, as Chandler looks like the best athlete on the entire card. How quick he moves forward, his hands, his, advancing, and then his just physique, and he just looks like a special athlete. I don't know how his endurance is or how it's going to be for someone who can take him to deeper waters, as they say, but I'm pretty excited for what he did. And I'm going to retract my statement about when you're fighting the top guys repeatedly. Like, of course, everyone falls off eventually, except for Khabib, but everyone is going to fall off eventually. But I have less worry about him fighting top 5 guys a few times in a row and kind of getting overwhelmed with the competition, because he looks really high level.
He's one fight away, or who knows, if negotiation goes wrong, maybe he's in there. It doesn't seem like Poirier wants to fight him. He said no in the post-fight press conference. Poirier's like, no, he comes in. Other guys have their due before him. We have our, new sweet science scale of how you feel about a fighter, hater, meh, fanboy, dick rider. I have a proposal for Brother Mark. And This is, Brother Mark, I think you should become a Michael Chandler fanboy. And this is why. Chandler, in the post-fight interview, quote, "I'm not a big talk to your opponent after you win. I'm really not. I actually think it's one of the most disrespectful things in the sport. I think it's absolutely the worst. When you choke a guy out or you knock him out, as soon as he comes to, you start hugging him or kissing him. It's just no. Let the man take his loss. Let him breathe. Let him do his thing inside his head."
Love it. I miss that, but I love that. Completely agree.
After, Xing Liang did that to Ponzinibbio, which I think he might have been doing it because that extra shot that was landed, but 100% when you start kissing on their head, making out with them, oh my God, it's all this, it's all that. And I know Brother Mark said that, so that this is for him.
The one thing I see is that might bring back PTSD for Brother Mark, because Brother Mark, when he was doing amateur fighting, he came into a fight and I think he lost his opponent. So they matched up with a guy who, quote unquote, weighed around the same thing as Mark. And then when he gets there, he's fighting a guy in the build of Chandler who's like 20 or 30 pounds heavier. And I believe that's the last fight Brother Mark competed in. Maybe he did one more after that. So there might be a little Michael Chandler PTSD. But this right here, his post knockout belief system, I'm definitely a fanboy, at least of that. Maybe even a dick rider of that belief system.
Yeah, I agree with Chandler here. What do you think of? So you think no way for the Conor Poirier trilogy?
I mean, Conor will win that fight, so it's good for Conor if he does get it going. Conor doesn't lose rematches. He needs he needs to know how to lose to you before he can beat you.
So coming off a loss, get the title shot. Ugh. But it is Conor. Different rules apply.
Yeah, so
you like Max. I like him versus Gaethje. Some people like him versus Poirier. Some people like him versus Diaz. He has some options.
The difference here between him rematching Diaz is, in the words of brother Mark, Diaz is a career journeyman. I know he had one title fight versus Benson many, many moons ago, but Diaz is like, you know, he's a career journeyman. So them having fun fights off to the side, I was okay with. Where Poirier is a true title contender, perhaps the top contender in the entire division. So if Poirier becomes the uncrowned champ or the champ or whatever, there is no way in hell Conor deserves a rematch. No way in hell.
But I don't know what's above a journeyman. That's what I feel about Diaz. But the thing that gets me mad about Diaz is his inactivity. He fought Conor. His value has never been higher than even when he fought Masvidal. But since 2016, he's had 2 fights in 2019. That was Pettis and Masvidal. Didn't fight for 2020. I almost don't want him beating anybody because he's not going to build off of that. He's not going to transfer that star power into anything else. But I want to see him fight. He brings an interesting style, even to like how he talked. Like he would give Poirier a challenge because he's so hard to knock out.
Who would?
Nate Diaz.
Yeah, I would watch that fight.
I mean, he's not like, he's always a challenge for somebody in some way. Like you're not just going to go and steamroll his ass.
I agree. So based on my very quick research, a journeyman is just people who make up the roster that are below superstar. And in a way, beating Conor did catapult Nate above journeyman status. But before that, he was a journeyman. I mean, before he beat Michael Johnson, he had Michael Johnson gave him 5 wins in his last 10 fights. And then he fought Conor the next fight and beat him. And even since then, it's 7 out of his last 14 fights. He's 7-7.
I get it. It's
He not a fight shot. Tough guys in a derogatory way.
And he does get a lot of performance bonuses.
He's a great employee. Well, he was.
Yeah, he doesn't show up to work enough.
Not anymore, man.
He's contingent.
Over a year and a half almost.
He's contingent. He's on leave. All right. Where am I at here? Oh, Hebus Rodriguez.
F.
Shades of Benavidez versus Alex Perez with the double KOs. You know when I knew this fight was over?
Tell me.
When my girlfriend said about Marina Rodriguez, quote, she has a boy body, end quote. That's when I knew. I was like, shit, Hebus is in trouble. I really didn't put that together. Even though I know Rodriguez, she's tough as hell. She's one of those girls you don't want to, like, one of those people you don't want to fight. It's hard to finish. She's long or striking. She looked really comfortable and loose and free flowing. And what else we got? Venezuelan Vixen. Pena.
Back. She's back.
Next, fight Nunes next after Megan Anderson dethrones her.
Was this at what was this at?
Big Paul was impressed with Pena. I was surprised he brought that up on his own. He's like, oh yeah, she's looking good. She's looking in shape. She's, she had her kid. Now she's kind of looking, she's getting back into it.
What's the name of Big Paul's in your podcast? The Pauls?
The Paul brothers.
The Paul's MMA show?
Not to be confused with Logan Paul and Jake Paul.
Or Paul Bearer.
Yeah, we're the shittiest of those 3 Pauls. but sometimes that's what you need.
In fairness, that's the creme de la creme of Paul's right there. So
the performance bonuses went to Poirier, Chandler, Muradov, Rodriguez, which is good. All of those are on the main card. So that's good. That's just good for the event within itself, even though I had some problems with this event. Not the fight of the night, Andrew Sanchez versus Muradov. Why is that on a main card of a Conor card? Numbered event.
Well, I tell you, it looks like they have brand new Wikipedia pages, so that's nice.
Yeah, it's adorable. Plus this, that fight and the fact that Jessica was the co-main event, KO'd in a title fight, then misses weight in her next two fights, one of them by 5 pounds, and she's rewarded with the Coco in the Conor event. So
I don't know which guy it was, but one guy in the Muradov Sanchez fight had cool hair. I don't know which one it is though.
Oh, so $250 each, $500 each. Amanda Hebus being done up for the weigh-ins. Smart move. Conor McGregor getting down to his underwear for the ceremonial weigh-ins. Sarah McMahon's arms and Camila Oliveira. $500.
Sarah McMahon has been living off her arm bonuses with us for about 5 years.
Dude, her arms, maybe because they got pumped up with blood. I think it was after round 2. It was just too much.
So Lance Armstrong did like the blood doping. Where do you reinsert the blood? Do you do like an IV, like in your, I
think in your arm,
elbow joint,
or
is it anywhere, or just any artery? Just wondering, maybe like, if you're blood dope, not saying she's a blood doper, but could that give you an arm pump?
Is it reinserted back in a vein?
I don't know, man.
I think it is. Usually
next
arteries
week
are
we'll
more
do
deep.
We'll customize our top 5 blood doping fun facts.
My top 5 arteries. I only have one deduction other than a not so sweet technique. Minus $1,000, Khabib's Twitter. He has the tweet about Conor, which I'm fine with, but I'm unable to tell which one is Khabib, which one is Ali. Twitter, first of all, is the worst of humanity,
Correct.
But I think part of it that makes it special is that these famous people, athletes, whatever, you have this access to them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, who's tweeting that, what account he switched to. So I guess that's it.
You get some, I enjoy the ability to hear people's raw emotional thoughts. Now, a lot of times they freak out and they delete their thoughts, but the screenshots live on forever. So I do enjoy that about Twitter, but Twitter is the cesspool of society. That is an indisputable fact.
Well, it's the worst of you put into this forum where you just want to argue about shit where nobody gives a damn about what you have to say because people are just self-centered pieces of shit. Okay. But I want to hear people's drunk thoughts. I think I'm at my best while an event is directly occurring while I'm drinking. I think my accuracy gets higher. Somehow it's tapped into that subconscious processing. If that's even.
I agree with you there, man. We need more drunk stories from you during events.
But I'm also at my worst and say the worst things that people aren't going to like about me, but I'm just messing around. You're just bullshitting.
Well, there's a fine line between worst and best. It's like love and hate. It's like sadness and ecstasy. There's a very fine line. The beauty of the story is it disappears in 24 hours. So you're good, man.
Whew. Rank these 5 fight announcements and denouncements.
I had no idea we were getting announcements, man. I'm excited for this.
Number 1, Whitaker versus Costa.
I did hear this one.
Fight night 190, April 17th.
And
Number
not
2.
for the vacant belt, correct?
Is it for it?
I don't think it is.
Oh. No, because Adesanya will have to be champ.
Okay, so does Whitaker Costa before or after Adesanya? Jan.
I'm about ready to find out. Whitaker Costa is after, so it could. Yeah.
Paul, quick question here. This is just say a tangent, but is this weekend's event only a one fight event?
Wait, there's an event this week?
Unless it's it's February 6th. Never mind.
Oh.
Delete that from the episode.
All right. So number 2, Darren Till versus Marvin Vettori. Fight night 189, April 10th.
Where's that land on the card? Because if that's a main event, that's last in my rankings.
Really? Even Vettori coming off that big win?
Just them two for 5 rounds. I don't love it. I'd rather see a 3-rounder out of those two.
I'm thinking it's going to headline it.
All right.
Yes, it says to serve as the event headliner.
Okay.
Per Wikipedia. Number 3, Nick Lentz retires.
One of the all-time nicknames and worst nicknames of all time.
Number 4, Jake Paul versus Ben Askren in boxing.
This is the shit rankings, isn't it?
And number 5, BJ Penn arrested again.
Wow. What was he yelling in the video when the cops were putting him into the back seat of the car?
QAnon or something? I don't know.
I'm like, do they speak a different language in some parts of Hawaii, or is it all English?
I think they have some terms that are different.
Okay, because that seemed like a different language to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, man, this is one of the most unique rankings we've ever done on the show.
So you were saying, if Till and Vettori is headliner, that's number 5. So is it?
Well, so here, let me. I'd rather watch Jake Paul versus Ben Askren than Jake Paul versus Floyd Mayweather.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Till Vettori.
No.
Okay.
No. You know, I don't know my exact mindset around these freak show fights, but I don't hate them. Like, dude, I steered clear of the results so I could watch Paul versus Nate Washington. I think I got his name wrong, but Nate Washington's a former NFL player, but either way, okay, yeah. Nate Robinson went to Washington. That's where I'm confusing, but we'll go with Nate Washington here. So I steered clear of the results so I could watch those fights later and not have the ending ruined for me. So it's doing something for me. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like, I don't know what it is. So the worst news here is Nick the Carney Lentz retiring. That's number 5.
Okay.
We never got to see Nick Lentz versus BJ Penn. And how dare you put them on both the rankings? Because you know it would upset me that we never saw that super fight take place.
Stop. Okay, my worst. Do you have a worse than we usually do a top 3 or top 5, whatever. What's your top 1? Your favorite?
My favorite one is Whitaker versus Costa.
No, your favorite Nick Lentz moment.
Oh, my favorite Nick Lentz moment? The poem.
See, that's my worst.
See, man, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, man. It's perfect right there.
But my favorite Nick Lentz moment by far is that the guy has a trilogy with Charles Oliveira, aka Charlie Olives. He is now Charlie Olives forever now, ever since Dan Hooker called him that in the post fight or no pre-fight press conference.
Wait, did you do it on purpose? Or was it a joke? Did he misspeak?
I don't know. It was so just smooth and it didn't even I'm funny. He wasn't like that. It was just effortless. It was good.
Charlie Olives is way better than Chucky. It's almost like Hardy heard us call him Chucky. He's like, you know what? I can improve upon that. Let's go Charlie Olives. That is smooth, man. That's like, je ne sais quoi. That's like,
That's charcuterie board.
It's charcuterie,
Charcutier?
man. It's Casanova. Like Charlie Olives is excellent. I didn't hear that, man, when that happened last time. That is excellent.
You like it though, huh?
All right, so number 1, Whittaker Costa. Number 5 is Nick the Carney Lentz retiring. I feel like he's a good employee. He's always in the exact same fight. You know, all of his fights look the same. We never saw him versus BJ Penn. BJ Penn arrested.
Nick Lentz does have a good nickname.
He just beat someone who's pretty decent, I feel like. The guy who looks just like him, and you couldn't tell who was who when they fought. What's that? He's a lightweight. He's got a blocky head. No, I'm confusing, guys. Let me pull up Nick Lentz real fast.
What if Nick Lentz was really a carny? Then it would be an all-time nickname.
Lentz versus Scott Holtzman.
Oh, okay.
Watching that fight was virtually impossible to know who was who. And 2 all-time nicknames there, Hot Sauce versus Carney. Anyway, I digress. Number 5, Lentz retiring. That's sad news.
Was Nick Lentz a journeyman?
Yes. There are different level journeymen. I'd put Nate above Nick Lentz. However, would Nate have been the same level journeyman without being Nick's brother and tough? Just mull it over. Don't answer yes. But
hold on. And Nate Diaz is an ambassador for weed.
Correct. Well, I'm just saying, would Nate have reached his level without being Nick's brother or tough? That's a nice thought experiment, man.
I'll think about it. I'll mull over it.
Maybe we get Mark on the show and discuss it for 30, 40 minutes one day when news is light.
You know what? Minus $10,000, the Ottoman Empire guy. What is he thinking? Like he was 2-0 in the UFC. I'm pretty sure he's undefeated. He has 2 performance bonuses, and they're taping together wristbands to what? Bringing some IED and some bags, scaling across balconies like he's trying to get some ass, like he's a dog digging under a fence. What is he thinking, man?
You know what this is equivalent to? This is equivalent to meeting a complete stranger. She wants to have sex. So do you. You have no condom. And you just throw it in her and come inside her anyway. That's what this is here.
Oh my God. He's 30. I thought he was going to be like 25, 24. And I'm trying to be more understanding, especially considering how I was / still am. But man, 30. Whew.
Yeah. Bud. More understanding at 24 versus 30, that's for sure.
Well, guess what? That's how old Jake Paul is. When I look at him and he's like a little kid to me. And then I see Ben Askren's like a man. Like he's just a little kid. I don't even want to listen to him, but go ahead. Where are we at?
Number 3 is Till versus Vettori.
And what was number 2?
Number 2 is Paul versus Askren. And I'm picking that at 2 primarily because Askren to me is an all-time character. He's become one. I follow him on Insta. He's interesting, man. He's got some funny, he makes fun of himself for getting knocked out with the flying knee by Masvidal. Like, I feel like this is a solid freak show event.
And yes, and I sometimes I just come across stuff. I'll let the YouTube keep running or I'll click on random stuff, whatever. But now it's Jake Paul talk. I was listening to the Ben Askren interview or whatnot. He's following Ben Askren's wife. And then when asked about her, oh, she thick. And I think
that's too much for me. I don't like that.
This is stupid. And it doesn't like get me mad. I can't wait to see him knocked out. I'm just like, God, he's like a stupid little kid. And, but I think he's going to be on the other end of, I don't know if they're like one-liners or whatnot, but Ben Askren is going to, I think he's going to, in terms of, he's going to be a formidable opponent in talking shit to him because he's pretty just stand-up guy. He doesn't really care. And the way he kind of talks about the YouTube angle and all that stuff, God, if he gets starched, it is going to be a fucking Cirque du Soleil tournament around this place.
I think my favorite, what turned me on to Askren was when he posted a photo of him with the dad bod. And he's like, who would think this is the body of a world-class athlete? And I'm like, that's funny. That's just funny right there, man. So I am only following the Askren side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Paul's too much for me, like you. He's just too much, man. It's too corny. It's not funny. But if you like it, go for it. It's not my cup of tea.
Like, he's an adult and Jake Paul is a kid. Ben Askren is literally coming off a hip replacement. Like, I thought it was hip surgery. I said hip replacement to my girlfriend. She's like, what? And I was like, maybe it's hip surgery. But then he says hip replacement surgery. So I'm going with hip replacement.
Let me tell you, though.
My dad has 2 hip replacements.
Well, so that's genius by Askren. Most of these fucking fools wait until they're 64 and then rehab is brutal. This guy gets it at 38, knowing it's coming later. His rehab's probably a breeze. That's a genius move to get the hip replacement 3 decades sooner than the average person gets it. So actually, performance bonus, $1,000, Ben Askren.
Ben Askren's hip.
Pay for part of the hip replacement.
All right. I'm surprised that fight was made on it, or whatever you want to call it. You like it better than Logan Paul versus Floyd, you said?
Well, yeah, 100%. Logan Floyd, you know what? Fuck it. Logan Floyd was just, I wasn't feeling that. I didn't really want any part of it. And I probably wasn't going to watch it. But I feel like this fight has a greater chance to end in mayhem. So that's interesting to me.
Would you watch Logan Paul versus Jake Paul?
Probably not. Ben Askren is the guy I'm following for this fight. Whether he wins or loses, I don't give a shit. I think he's entertaining, and I enjoy the character of him. So I'm kind of like if I enjoy you as a character, I'll follow on with what you're saying. If I don't, I tune you out. So
all right. Did you watch Chiesa versus Magny?
Did I? No, I didn't.
Well, you were right though. You were on Magny. You unloaded him. I picked him up. Now I was on Magny's dick. I was like, I should send you guys this picture I took of his arm, because he looks like he's getting so big and strong. But then Chiesa, he's that good. And that's was one thing as I was worried about, is that you're in there with guys and some guys are just a little bit different. And he's just that good at grappling. He seems to be filling into his body, whatnot. He is amazing in that 50-50 position, that overhook, underhook. And
I saw the result by accident and said, hey, like he won handily. And I'm like, all right, 5-round decision. He wins handily. I'm not going to go through that again, but so.
Yeah. And it was like on a Wednesday before the Conor event. It was like during the inauguration or whatnot. It was in a weird time. It was only there were other fights on there that I kind of just watched in the background, but
yeah, there was a lot going on. But Chiesa, man, I'm excited for his ascent at welterweight.
What about him saying, all right, your president's reign is over. Now it's your turn, Colby Covington.
That's good.
You would want to see that fight? I didn't
hear tonality or anything, but I enjoy that. That's a nice call out, and it's a pretty good call out.
And Colby can wrestle, man. I'm intrigued by the stylistic matchup. Colby doesn't get like held down or anything.
No. I don't know if Colby has this, because I don't know his reach, but he seems to have like a bit of an alligator arm effect.
Okay.
I don't know if he does or doesn't. Maybe my perception's wrong.
He's got the Max Holloway.
He's like the wrestling version of Max. And he does put the pressure on you too, just like Max does.
Khabib too, right?
Khabib as well. Maybe that's what led to their pressure, is like they know if they play the range game, they're done because they have shorter reach. So they got to get inside, create pressure, put you on your heels and just put the offensive on you.